We are here with John Connelly, CEO of Interblock, a leading supplier of electronic table games. And John, before we begin, this would not be 2020 if I did not ask you, how has COVID affected business and how do you see it playing out for yourself and for the industry over the next near to midterm?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me again, Frank. COVID, as you can imagine, for Interblock, along with I think almost any gaming company, had a really an unforeseen impact earlier this year in a more meaningful way than we would have anticipated. It obviously, the industry shutting down in many places around the world, and in some cases, even as of today, still shut down. Latin America is still going through a traumatic time at the moment, and other parts around the world. So from a pure commercial business perspective, had to adjust quickly, as did others, and really tried our best to use this as a time to really reinforce the foundation that we've been building, really reevaluate each division of the company, and assess electronic table games relative to COVID-19. How can we support the operators in the industry? As a result of that, and because many table games being shut down, labor shortages and things of that nature, we experienced a higher demand for electronic table games post-COVID. When I say post-COVID, we're still not out of it, but let's say when the industry opened back up versus pre-COVID. So, and we believe that some of that is due to the reconstruction of our product line. We redesigned our stadiums to create social distancing, not only for players, but for the dealers. We redesigned some of our configurations on our standalone products, where there's 6 feet in between, inserted plexiglass in some cases. So a combination, I think, of just the impact of COVID and what it had on the players themselves and the mentality of the player psyche, dealers and the operators, combined with our efforts to really redesign our portfolio to be more conducive to the environment, has resulted in, very fortunately for at least Interblock, an increase in business, where we're now seeing that trend continue. So I think short term and midterm, to your question, Frank, we see electronic table games really having an acceleration due to COVID-19. We see that, at least for the foreseeable future, continuing. And for that reason, we're really trying to do our best to keep up with the needs of the operators in the industry.
One of the things that I hear when I listen to the operator conference calls is I hear them talk about stadium seating. And this is something that they would not talk about, they did not talk about before. But it seems to me that because of COVID, and they're looking at ways to maintain that social distancing that you mentioned, and yet still accommodate a large number of players, they're looking at stadium seating as a solution.
Yeah, it's interesting. The stadium product line for Interblock is by far the fastest growing area of our company at the moment. Universal cabinets, standalone carousels, where players can play by themselves, electronic forms of table games as well. But we're experiencing on average 1 to 2 stadium installs per week at the moment, which, pre-COVID was again doing well, but nowhere near to the level it is today. So I think that social distancing aspect for both players, dealers, that sense of comfort and security is definitely driving that demand. And on top of that, we are in the process of doing a new release of software in the coming weeks, which should enhance that offering even further, which the industry has been anticipating for the past year or two. So I think as we evolve out of COVID, let's see how the industry readjusts post COVID. But it seems, at least for now, that the stadium, the universal cabinets, those products that I described earlier, that do provide that social distancing, are being sought after quite frequently at the moment.
One of the things when we talk in our annual get-togethers like this is we talk about the emergence of electronic table games. But I don't think we can talk about that anymore because it has emerged. It's here now as an integral part of the casino industry. Uh, what's your update on the status of electronic games, table games in the industry, and your outlook for the future?
Yeah, it's funny, past 5 years, we've had some great talks, and things have evolved a lot in that period of time. I think you're correct from the standpoint, there does seem to be a greater awareness of electronic table games and what it can provide to a casino floor across, quite frankly, across North America and the world. Our obligation and our contribution to that has been to make sure that the product offering and the distribution mechanisms by which we provide ETGs is conducive to the market and the demand. And so a lot of the innovation and the evolutionary products that you see within Interblock have been designed specifically for that, meaning we now have a portfolio today versus 5 years ago that, quite frankly, 5 years ago was primarily one product. It was a mechanical roulette that sat in the middle of a bunch of slot machines on a floor, to today where we have over 15 different products that range from where a player can play by themselves to a stadium environment, as you mentioned, to mechanical, to video, to live dealer. And I think what we're finding is that we're learning, quite frankly, as Interblock and as an industry, is that electronic table games, there's different demographics that require different types of products, not one size fits all. So on a casino floor, the ability to offer multiple distribution channels on electronic table games with multiple mediums by which to do so is attracting a lot of new players. It's incremental revenue. And quite frankly, with what's going on in the world today, the ability to reduce costs for operators is very appealing. So I think the new trend we're seeing during COVID is that $5, $10, $15 tables in many cases no longer exist in casinos. They're literally saying the minimum will be $25. If you want to play lower than $25, you need to go to an electronic table game format, which may have a live dealer in a stadium, but definitely reducing costs and pushing technology through electronic table games to help support that.
Where there is demand, there is going to be competition. And all of the major manufacturers now are in the electronic table game business. What is Interblock's competitive advantage?
Competition's good. Let's start there. I think it keeps everybody, on their toes and drives innovation and it's good for the industry. So very much in support of that, obviously. What we do is, I think our greatest advantage is that we've been doing this for close to 30 years. The first ETG, electronic table game, was created by our founder. It's in the culture of the company, and we focus on one thing. I've been in other careers in my past where we had to wake up and think about many different areas of gaming and driving growth for our organization. We wake up here and we think about one thing, and we think about how to create the next generation of electronic table games that reduces operating expenses, attracts new players to casino floors, and really helps us remain competitive as an industry with things heading towards online. Let's be honest here, online sports betting, technology, and then the next generation that's hopefully going to drive this industry are much more savvy in those areas. So we have an obligation when it comes to table games specifically to be at the forefront. And I think our history, our team, the people within our organization, the dedication and focus on one area of a casino floor has allowed us to get where we are, and hopefully allows us to continue the success we've had.
One of the questions I ask each time, and I'll ask it again, is what are the chances or the timetable for Interblock to become a public company?
So public, I think that's in the future. It's still a ways off, as we've always said. I don't anticipate us going public anytime soon. However, I do anticipate us doing some in the coming months, this time versus years past, in the coming months, doing some pretty pretty exciting and transformational things within our organization to allow us to accelerate what we just talked about. And that is to allow us to really be able to invest more aggressively in electronic table games, to become more, to have more capital, to be more supportive to the operators and our ability to finance and quite frankly, expand globally with our products and diversification. So we are planning on doing some things here shortly for the first time in several years to give our team the tools they need to continue to support the growth we're seeing, the increased demand in electronic table games, and to continue to support the industry to remain competitive, hopefully into the foreseeable future. So public, no, but some exciting news coming for sure.
Great. This is the time of the year when companies display the products, the newest products, the products they're most proud of. What are the 2 or 3 must-sees at Interblock?
You know, the answer would have been different pre-COVID, what we were working on for this year's G2E. But I think since COVID, I'm going to modify my answer and say that I think the most important and interesting thing we have to offer at the moment, and then I'll give you a couple others, but is the ability to create an environment for players under COVID where they feel comfortable. I wouldn't have said that pre-COVID, obviously. So the social distancing aspect within our portfolio, combined with the technology we have and the ability to not only give players, but I said as before, dealers the comfort they need, reducing operating expenses, is really something that I think everybody should at least take a look at, be aware of what we can do to accommodate that situation. On top of that, you know, from a pure innovation perspective, we have a new version or package of software coming out on our stadiums we've been working on for several years, with new products, features, functionality, side bets, brands inside. That'll be coming out before the end of the year. Very excited about that because we feel it will help casinos who are currently stadium customers yield up those assets with the same square footage, or give potentially new casinos several new ideas or methods to place that product on their floor. And then secondly, the universal cabinet, which we've been displaying last year, is now hitting the field, and the numbers are extremely encouraging from both local and tourist markets across North America. And that product seems to really be generating an incremental dollar value on the floor and a new player that we hadn't seen before. So those products, I think, are the 2 that I would, for many reasons, recommend people at least go online and take a look at. Okay,
great. Any final thoughts or things you'd like folks to understand about Interblock?
No, obviously, just we are, we're cognizant of the fact that it's difficult times for all of us right now, and anything we can do to support the operators, any unique things that they may require under the regulations or things going on, we're happy to support them. And most importantly, I just hope everybody stays safe and we get through this and things are better yet to come, right?
Those are very good final thoughts. John, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank.